We were sitting at Pace's kitchen table, just talking through like, things that we want to accomplish. And he just kind of like looked like he was thinking, and he's like, if in like 2 or 3 more months we don't hate the shit out of each other, maybe we should just partner officially. One of the big things that I think was a really great impact overall was just it then failing. I didn't have any money management skills at that time. I was good at, I guess making money, but I was terrible at managing it. With that falling apart, I had to sell my cars that I was negative equity in because I was a dummy and bought them brand new. So I had to write checks to sell the cars, sell everything down to my mattress, move back home to my parents' house, and basically start over. I got down to where I literally had like a few $1,000s left to my name, and I was like, man, 6 months ago, life was really different. So I was just finishing out my last transactions, and I just pretty much put my back against the wall, and I'm like, I am going to succeed with real estate investing or I'm going to die.
Welcome back to another episode of the Austin is Zaback show. Today, we have a very good friend of mine, Cody Barton. I've actually known Cody Barton for probably over a decade.
Yeah.
Right at a decade, maybe a little over a decade. I'm sure we'll dive into that a little bit. But before we do, Cody is actually one of the owners of a portfolio of companies that will do roughly $39 million this year in revenue, owns $22 million in real estate currently, and is the sitting CEO in 2/3 of his primary companies and the COO in the other 1/3. And I had to read that off right off the iPad because it's extremely impressive. And I didn't know a lot of that, and I'm excited to like get caught back up on camera because I feel like we both kind of like went and did our own thing for so long.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see what you've done. So I just appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, no, happy to be here. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. So maybe for anybody watching or listening that doesn't know you, catch everybody up to speed on where you came from and how you ended up here.
Yeah. So, I'm 28, turning 29 in a week from now. But, I started kind of this entrepreneurial journey in high school, always wanted to, make a lot of money. I have a similar cloth to yourself of like, just going and getting a job and working forever isn't going to create the life of, my dreams. And so, started in the, similar place to where where we ended up meeting, which was in network marketing, back, that was 11 years ago. I don't like getting old. 11 years ago, and, we, built that for 4 years, had success, had a couple thousand people on the team, achieved, our group was doing, $3 million a year in revenue, which is cool as a teenager to be able to say that. And then, when I was 21, that company came crashing down, and, had to start over from scratch at 21, and, was a knucklehead, spent all the money I made, which, when you're 18, 19, you're an idiot with money typically. So, had that happen. Long story short, transitioned to the real estate space, really as an agent at first, because I wanted to invest. So I thought being an agent was a good path, which, I wouldn't have done it looking back again, but I would have just got right into investing. But, we all have a different path. And so, from 21 to 23 did that, then transitioned to fully doing, wholesaling, and fast forward to 28, now have, our real estate business. Primarily we just buy and hold stuff now, Airbnbs and rentals, myself and my partner Pace Morby. And, we have a virtual assistant staffing company that, with hundreds of staff in the Philippines, and we have a media company that's, has a good sized team, and, we're working on buying some businesses right now to roll up into the organization that we're building. So, high level, a lot of different things going on.
I love that, dude. Yeah. Yeah, and you're obviously a really humble guy. I've known you forever, and really cool to hear that, you have all that going on, right? And I'm excited to peel back that onion for myself and the viewer, obviously.
Yeah.
Really quick before we do, because I feel like we just have to talk about the network marketing really quick.
Yeah.
Obviously so you said your team, the organization that you built or that you guys built, that we all built, I guess.
Yeah.
Was doing $3 million a year. You hit Star Presidential in that company?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still remember,
And thought it was a lot of money then, but
it was a lot of money then.
It was, but and thinking in the bigger business world, it's it's different.
Because you would have been like basically 18.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
At that time. So 18 years old, you were making what, 20 grand a month?
Yeah, anywhere from like depending on the week, it was like $3,000 to $5,000, $4,000 to $5,000 a week, just depending on the given week. And so, I mean, at 18, it might as well have been a gazillion dollars because, you go from no money to then there's some money. It's like, wow, like I could buy stuff now.
For sure, dude. I remember like it was yesterday. Alex Morton, Brad Alcazan, man.
Yeah.
I remember like,
the
oh man,
squad.
I'll tell you. Yeah. You've got to love it, dude. I still, the reason I wanted to talk about it is because a lot of times, like when I'm getting interviewed, people ask like, hey, what do you attribute to like how you got to where you're at? And a lot of times I say network marketing.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if you would say the same, like how network marketing shifted your paradigm and running around that group of people. And like, if you attribute that at all to how like getting to where you're at today.
Yeah, I would say in a lot of ways there was a lot of lessons from it. Learned a lot of great stuff on just, becoming obsessed with anything you're going to do is the way to be successful with it. And I think that, is a great lesson is like you have to do that to be able to be really uber successful with something. And, the lessons on personal development and, continuously improving yourself because the more you grow, the more the business is going to grow as well. And so, leadership skills and, speaking, public speaking, facilitating, large groups of people and, planning things like the organization and all of those things. I mean, those skills transfer over in a lot of different ways. And, one of the big things that I think was a really great impact overall was just it then failing, like it just, it stopping. And, I didn't have any money management skills at that time. I was good at, I guess making money, but I was terrible at managing it and, understanding like how to allocate it properly to investments and different things. So, those were some skills that I didn't have and when you're making money, you can kind of be lazy with managing it because it's like, well, there's more coming, but everything falling apart and, one day just every Thursday deposits would hit, right around midnight and life was good. And one day they stopped and, the car payments didn't stop, the rent payments didn't stop and all the expenses didn't stop. And I was like, oh crap. Like I need to get some more money coming in.
Yeah.
And, with that falling apart, had to sell my cars that I was negative equity in because I was a dummy and bought them brand new. So I had to write checks to sell the cars, sell everything down to my mattress, move back home to my parents' house, and basically start over. And so very humbling ego death very early on. And so like that was super. I during the time, it was probably like one of the lowest points in my life, honestly, because it's like ego death of like my identity was wrapped up in it. And my security financially was wrapped up in it. And so all of those things just being ripped away, it had me go down a path of, additional personal development and like learning like, money management, especially, and, then starting in a new career path of like, I don't want to do this industry anymore. Great industry, like highly recommend to people still to be in network marketing if that's what they want to do. But, for me, I wanted to do something different, something that I actually had, ownership in the actual company where I could have, steer the boat of like where it's going. And if something fell apart, it was going to be completely my fault.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a commonality because when you look back at that company and that kind of, let's call it like a movement, right?
Yeah.
The kind of YPR movement that everybody contributed to, right? The majority of the people that I've seen that came out of that movement have gone to do something pretty great. I mean, if you think about it, like not everybody, obviously, but when you look at Morton, you look at yourself, I mean, Christian Jukes, you look at, I mean, there's a significant amount of people I feel like, and I'm sure you know more names than I do even. And like, what would you say that was just attributed to the fact of going back to like the personal development type of thing?
I think so. I think it was personal development. And then, people were just dreaming big and like thinking bigger and like, of the thing, like everything that like we would want to achieve when we were like young, we actually believed we could do in that environment. And I think that, childlike curiosity and like enthusiasm was able to transfer over for those that, allowed it to carry on to the things that they're doing now after, being involved in that, in network marketing and within that company. And so I think if people, brought those things to the next businesses that they're involved in, it's, been able to create a lot of success for people. And, obviously not everybody, but it's like, I just think it was, it was like a melting pot of, people that were probably going to be successful entrepreneurs, but kind of like, added some like steroids to it with bringing them together.
Hey, real quick, I just want you to do me a huge favor. If you're enjoying the show and you're enjoying all the amazing guests that we've been having on lately, then do me a massive favor and smash the like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe if you have not already. I would greatly appreciate it. It would mean the world to me, and we will be able to bring on a lot more big names if you help us out. Now let's get back to the show.
And getting them like really excited and like learning a lot together.
I love that. Yeah, thinking big. I couldn't agree more with you. So walk me through then that happens, and here you are. Here we all are, right? And in a way, it wasn't even that the money stopped. It was that it was almost like for a moment the dream came to an end.
Yeah.
Right. It was like for a second, it was
dead.
like, because
dream is dead.
We thought, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, like you thought, and you were making way more money than I was, but we thought that was our future at the time.
Yeah, that was it.
Right.
This was it.
That was the thing we were going to do. Right. And then overnight, the rug gets pulled out from underneath of you. Yeah. You said you had to go pay off the cars and you had to go back with mom and dad. Right. Then when did you finally say, okay, I'm going to go become, because the next thing you did was become an agent, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
I mean, really, it was like, well, for the 6 months after that, I was pretty depressed for most of the time. But a month of just woe is me and, just being honest. Like, I was just like, man, like, I feel like I got hit by a freaking bus. I spent a month of just selling everything that I owned. It's like, damn, like, that's rough. Yeah. And, going back, moving at home with parents, and then, all the people that, wanted to talk crap about, oh, I told you it wasn't going to work, or, told you weren't going to be successful, have fun getting a crappy job because now you don't have a degree, and while everyone else spent their time getting a degree, so it's like all of those things bombarding down, living back at home with mom and dad, and now, like, I got down to where I literally had like a few $1,000s left to my name, and I was like, man, this was like 6 months ago, life was really different.
Yeah. Pretty humbling, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's funny because we laugh at it now, right?
Yeah.
And obviously hindsight's 20/20, right?
Yeah.
But then, I mean, it was like
traumatic,
painful, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendation if, because I've interviewed a lot of people in that chair, 75, I would say so far, and a lot of big names. And a lot of the guys and gals that have sat there have had some similar experience to that. Obviously, it maybe wasn't that company or that thing, but the majority of the people I interview at some point, like they went on this like high, and then they hit a low.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendation for somebody that might be watching or listening that might be either going through a low or about to go through a low?
Yeah. I mean, I would say like going through it sucks. Like it's like there's no like it's gonna be fine. It's like no, it sucks during the time, and it's like you have to go through that. And I think the biggest thing is like, what are you gonna do through that time? And like, I chose, obviously, starting off, like I really struggled with it. And with, depression, anxiety was through the roof through that time. But, I realized I'm like, okay, what's my next step? It's just like, what can you do with what you have right now? And I was like, well, real estate was a path that I was always interested in, being involved in. So I'm like, I can get my real estate license. I will work like a grunt and just do the work to be successful at anything that I do. So, I could do this. And so, that was just the most logical thing was like feel with where I'm at, being okay to like be sad. Like, a lot of people, they're like, oh, like everything has to be great all the time. Like, no, like sometimes life sucks and for a time. And it's like being like recognizing like, yes, this isn't ideal. I don't ever want to go back to this. And that was my mindset is like, I never want to have this happen again. I need to build something that, is really unbreakable for the future and set up, safety nets upon safety nets and like, conservative, like I'm very conservative by nature now, but, all of the things to be in place so that, this never happens again. And so I really think, when people are going through like the low moment, it sucks. Like, yes, it does. But it's what you're taking during that low moment and like the realizations that you have. And for me, it was, I never want to experience this again. I am never going to experience this again. So I'm going to set my life up on the next build that I do to not ever be able to go back down to this, position in life. And so that was that was my takeaway. And that was like the perspective that I gained. Obviously, again, going through it, horrible, sucked, depressed, anxious, wasn't having fun. But, you know, looking back, you know, that was the realization I had during that low moment that then, you know, pushed me along to, I guess, you know, where we are today.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think phenomenal advice to people watching and listening, and very real and raw, like tangible, like I can take that and implement it type of thing. Like, like it's okay. It might suck. Like, you know, like, I mean, like as simple as that is, like people aren't talking about that on the internet, right? They're like,
everything's great, rah, like everything's great, make millions of dollars, close deals, everything is amazing. And, you know, they don't talk about all the, you know, turmoil that happens behind the scenes.
And there's a lot, right? Like with anybody, we've all been through it, you know, and anybody that achieves great things, I think it's almost like by the very nature of achieving something great, you have to go through hell to get there.
It's like a prerequisite.
Like I've never met anybody that just walked on water all the way to the mountaintop. Like I've never interviewed that person yet. Maybe one day I will, but they haven't been right there to this point, you know? So then you become an agent. And it's obviously interesting, and we'll dive into a bunch of stuff in a little while for people watching. But, you know, and you talk about, like, had you, looking back, you would have just became an investor, right? You would have gone right to the investment side. But I wanna spend a minute right there. Like, what happened when you became an agent? You know, how long were you actively pursuing being, like, a full-time agent, and why didn't you like it?
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, I think the biggest part about being an agent was, like, I want to like have my work be location independent, and obviously you can build an agent team and have other agents showing the properties and meeting the sellers and signing listing agreements and, you know, doing all of those things, right? But I didn't want to build a business where I'm like stuck in like one area and with me having to be involved. Like I want to be very flexible with like the location that I'm able to work in. So that's one of the things. And then the second thing was like working as an agent. I honestly just didn't really like doing it. I don't really like sales. I didn't like, you know, meeting with sellers. You know, I went through coaching programs, you know, to learn the skills that I needed to be successful. And, you know, being 21, all of, you know, friends are broke and aren't buying properties and selling properties. So you have to go create the business. And so, you know, I did that by literally like, my whole game was I cold called. I would call for sale by owners, expireds, canceled listings. And then I would do open houses every single weekend. That was literally like my day every day. And then I would, you know, like the circle prospecting, you know, cold calling in neighborhoods that I wanted to get listings in. And that's what I did. And, you know, the first, you know, 6 months, which was like the last half of a year that I, you know, got my license, didn't have, you know, massive success. I got a few deals done, didn't make a bunch of money. And then my first full year, you know, I did, you know, just under 30 transactions, you know, because I got the momentum of the cold calling and the, you know, listings and all of that. And I was like, man, I'm making good money again, like I did in Vima. But I was like, and the network marketing company, and I was like, but I freaking hate my life. I don't want to do this crap. Like I didn't want to deal with the clients. I'm like, don't freaking call me. Don't bother me. I'm like, I want to deal with all this crap. And so that was really the thing. And it's like, I think there's a lot of people that really enjoy doing like the work of being an agent and like working with the clients. Like to me, I don't want to talk to any of the customers. You know, the way I like to operate in our businesses is I'm like, you know, it's like in the Wizard of Oz, the guy at the end where he's like pulling all the levers and like everything is occurring because of them, but like no one really sees them. Like that's what I prefer to do. Like I don't mind making content and doing stuff like this, but when I'm not trying to sell a customer something, I'm not trying to, you know, talk to the customers, and I want to create an environment that creates raving fan, you know, clients and customers of our companies, which is important to me, but I don't want to be the one. It's just draining to me. It's not fun for me, you know. Just sales side of business isn't my jam.
And I love the honesty there, because I think there's a lot of people in the day and age that we live in now where they, because of social media, think that, like, let's say maybe they have a personality type where they're similar to you, right?
Introverted.
Where they're like, just straight up. But again, I mean, according to, like, you can go be introverted and make a lot of freaking money. It just might be doing a different task, right?
For sure.
But society, I think, is like pressuring like the younger generation to go be the frontward facing guy or girl, right? Because it's like, you've got all the big names out there, and it kind of seems like the attractive thing to do, right? Like,
Yeah.
well, I'll just go I want to be the guy. I want to have 1 million people that follow me, and I want to blah, blah, blah,
Be the
right?
influencer and the closer. Like I'm a closer.
I'm
or
a closer.
I'm an expert marketer. It's like that whole thing.
Yeah. So how do people then, like, how are you able to acknowledge and accept the fact that maybe that wasn't the route you wanted to go down, and then pivot at a certain point? Because now I'd imagine you're making good money again.
Yeah.
So you've got to be at another kind of a new crossroad at that point, right? Where you're like, well, gosh dang, like I'm making the money I need to make again, but now, but I don't enjoy what I do. Mm-hmm. So like, how do you pivot then at that point? Like, kind of acknowledge, accept, and pivot.
I mean, the thing that I realized there is like, and one, I just want to make clear, like, because there's some people that might hear that and they're like, I don't like doing this, so I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to follow my passion. It's like, that's not the message I'm trying to portray there. It's more of like being able to recognize you don't like doing something, but doing what you have to do until you could do what you want to do is part of that. So I was doing it because it's like, well, I got to do something. And, really just kind of made the transition. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do this agent crap anymore. So I was just finishing out my last transactions, and I just pretty much put my back against the wall. And I'm like, I am going to succeed with real estate investing or I'm going to die. Like that was really just the mindset. I'm like, burn the boats. I let go of my assistant, which was really hard because it was like my first, US-based hire I ever had, and it was sad. She cried, and I was like heartbroken, but it was like what I had to do for what I wanted to, achieve in my life. And so it was just recognizing, like, am I willing to keep doing this for years to come and be unhappy, or should I pursue something different? And so I just hit that crossroad, and I was like, I am just gonna go all in on the real estate investing side and just make it happen and or die. I mean, that was just kind of my attitude around it. Like I wasn't going to try and like, hopefully it works out and hopefully I figure it out like a lot of people do. And I mean, I think that's why a lot of people, struggle and don't succeed because they like put their toe in and they're like, if I make like accidentally 20 grand on a deal, I'll keep doing it. But if not, I'm out.
Yeah. You see it all the time, right? But I love what you said, and I love that you corrected me, or at least corrected maybe the thought or where people were headed, which was, hey, I'm not suggesting chase your passion. That might not work, right? Like, don't be the broke musician on the side of the road. Yeah. Like, your passion might not pay you, right?
Yeah.
So you might need to make money and then take the money and do what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And I preach that all the time, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, you got to the point doing what you didn't like to do where it actually did allow you to then go pursue what you thought you wanted to do at the time.
Exactly.
Right? Which was real estate investing. And in particular, are you talking wholesaling, or so the audience can know, like, what are you talking about? What was that thing you decided you wanted to pursue maybe first?
So the thing for me was always, I want to buy and hold rentals, and I wanted, eventually to have like vacation rentals, Airbnbs. Like, so that was the thing I wanted to do, but you got to have money to do that. So, I was like, I could probably buy like one, and then I'm like tapped out. So it's like, I got to figure out creating like a cash generating machine to be able to buy these properties. And so it was wholesaling to start. And I think, the natural start for a lot of people is wholesaling. So they're able to generate, consistent cash flow, and then also be able to cherry pick the best deals, So that was the start. And, the cash building process was wholesaling. And then, myself and, my partner, Pace Morby, eventually came together about 6 months into me just doing it on my own and him doing his on his own. And then together, he had a background in construction, and he's like, we could do flips. And I was like, okay. So then we were able to capture more of the margin on deals by wholesaling them to ourselves essentially, and start flipping and then getting bigger chunks of cash and then starting to roll those into rental properties and, just continue to build that up. But that was always the goal, was how do I buy rentals and like vacation rental properties to generate, cash flow for the long term, get tax benefits and those things. And, it's not passive income. Passive income is a joke. There's no such thing. You have to manage stuff still. Like, you're not like on a beach just collecting money, it's like there's stuff that has to be done. But that was kind of the path, is like, that's what I wanted to do. And the reason I explained it in that way is like, there's a lot of times I'll talk to people and they're like, I just want to buy and hold. They're like, I don't want to have to wholesale. And it's like, well, you're broke. So like, what are you going to like, either, okay, you can do that, but you're probably going to have to go find money partners to, have them put their money into deals and you get equity in them or something.
And it might take you a real long time. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
And so
there's
it's
some
like
sort of trade-off there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like the wholesaling was the path to cash, to, doing more, to doing the flips, to get bigger chunks of cash, to then roll that cash into, long-term real estate holdings. So that was always the plan with that.
And who did you hear about wholesaling from? Like, and then were you doing wholesaling solo in the very beginning?
Yeah. So, I mean, starting off, obviously, like when we were living together years ago, it's like I remember you were doing, wholesaling with, Cody Sperber. And so, like, I had heard about it there. And then I had, obviously through like Josiah and Hunter over at Keegley, learning from them. But it was like this kind of mysterious thing to me as I was doing agent work, And when I finally went on my own, like I just went on my own. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do the cheap stuff. And like I just did driving for dollars to get my first couple deals, and I banked that cash and use that money to then invest in hiring some cold callers and then some text marketing and virtual assistants, and just kind of ramped up the operation that way until it was like 6-7 months into it, and then me and Pace met, and it was like this thing of like, he was great at closing and sales, and I hated doing sales. And then like I was great at generating leads. Like I always had leads coming in, and I was lead managing them, and which I didn't mind doing, but I hated sales.
Yeah.
And he was great at closing and hated doing marketing and hated doing lead gen and hated systems. And I was like,
hey, real quick, I don't know if you know, but I have a totally separate YouTube channel that you probably haven't checked out before. And it's just called Austin Zaback. And I've actually started a new series on that channel where I break down wholesale deals, okay? Wholesale deals that we've done in our business. And I show you step by step how we got the deal, how we sold the deal. I break down all the numbers on the deal, and I even show you the HUD of the deal, so you know we're not playing around. Now, I don't know how long you've been following me, but I do anywhere from 1 to 2 wholesale deals every single day. And my goal is to get to 100 deal breakdowns on that YouTube channel. So definitely, if you haven't already, go check it out. I'll link it down in the description below. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and get back to the show.
well, how about I do that stuff and then you do the other stuff? And he's like, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah. And obviously now you guys have created a beautiful partnership where you've done a lot together, right?
Yeah.
And I'm excited to like dive into that in a minute and talk about, creating a partnership and building with a partner and what that can look like and what it shouldn't look like. And I've definitely screwed that up many times. And so with wholesaling then, did you then continue to wholesale with Pace then at that point? Okay.
Yeah.
Got
So
it.
we continued wholesaling, but again, it was never the intent of like, we want to just wholesale. We want to buy and hold. That was the thing. Like, and everything else was a means to an end. It was means to an end to find the deals, to wholesale, and, flip to fund the buy and hold business, really. So that was really our thing. And so as long as we had enough cash to operate the business, any extra cash for the first freaking 3 years that we worked together went to buying and holding property. Like there was never excess cash really for us. Like we took, we follow, Micah McCallowic's book called Profit First, and he talks about managing companies, cash flow. And so we managed our money that way, but, we took very small profit distributions and, really just rolled as much of the cash possible into holding on to as much property as we could.
I love that, actually. Yeah, it's actually really valuable, I think, for the listener. So you guys both came together. You agreed on that, right?
Yeah.
And then when did you start buying property, would you say, so now you meet Pace, you're like 7 months in, right?
Yeah.
And how quickly, by the way, when you met him, did you guys kind of have this conversation and this kind of meeting of the minds of like, hey, maybe we should maybe there's something here, like maybe we should partner?
Yeah, so, it started off like I messaged him because he gave out his number on a podcast, and I was like, hey, Pace, my name's Cody Barton. I'm generating a lot of leads. Sounds like you're a great closer. Would love to give you the leads that I have. You can close them. I just want to learn from you. You can keep all the money from the leads I'm generating. I just want to learn on a few deals how you're doing this. And then, I just was like, oh, see what he says. And then he's just like, hey, let's do something. And then literally like a week later, we met for lunch and we kind of talked through like what he's trying to do, what I'm trying to do. Another week goes by, and then he randomly like calls me out of the blue, and he's like, I'm driving by the McDonald's near your house. He's like, meet me over there. Like, I don't know why we chose there, but that's where he like crushed a Big Mac at this McDonald's on Val Vista, or was it Greenfield and Baseline.
Yep.
And so we meet there, and he's like, bring your laptop and your hottest leads. And I'm like, okay. So we go over there. pull up my leads, call him, put him on the phone with them. And I mean, within 3 weeks, we got 5 contracts.
Wow.
And it was like, for me, I was like, man, like I hit the lottery.
Yeah.
I don't have to talk to these freaking sellers about negotiations anymore. I just have to, get the lead generated, tee him up, and set an appointment for Pace to talk to him.
For real.
It was great. And then he's like, this is great. I don't have to deal with anything besides talking to sellers.
Yeah, I love that. What was like for somebody because it was kind of a bold move what you did, right? You're like, you just texted him,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people like overthink like maybe what you did, but you just like took that action of like, hey, I'm gonna just reach out to him and see if he replies, you know, and
worst case he doesn't.
Meet him for lunch, you know, and obviously it worked out for you. What would your recommendation be to like people watching and listening where like they want to like hire a mentor or a coach or whatever, like they want to take that action, whatever that might be, right? And they're not taking that action.
Yeah. I would say it's like leading with value. Like Pace said, he got dozens of texts and like calls from the show, and he didn't really respond to many of them. And I was the only one that he actually ended up meeting with in person. And he's like, dude, you're the only one that led with value. Every other person wanted to like pick my brain and, try to get something from me. He's like, you told me you'd give me your leads and let me make all the money. So it's leading with value. And I think that's where a lot of people are going to have better results. Just like, what do you have to offer someone? And if you don't have something to offer them, I mean, it's like, it's more challenging, right? And it also depends on the caliber of person and the time in their life and how busy they are. And like, it's like, obviously if you try to reach out to Elon Musk, it's like, dude, come on, like you're not going to reach him, So it's like understanding who you're reaching out to, but then also how are you going to exchange value? Not can I pick your brain about whatever? And it's just like, dude, like, no, I'm not. Can I take you to lunch? I can afford my own lunch. I'm okay.
Can I buy you a coffee?
Yeah. I don't. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
So it's like leading with value. Like that's the important thing.
Which is a massive takeaway, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that you said that because very few people are doing that.
Yeah.
And I hope that somebody watching will just do that right now. Like they'll pause the video and they'll go like find somebody and lead with massive value, And
a great book that people could read is The Go Giver. It's like all about how you can be a better giver to those around you personally and professionally. And, so there's a lot of people, they grow up in scarcity, like me and you both did. Like we both grew up like very like, middle class, lower middle class at stages in our lives in our childhood. And, we have this scarcity mentality that we get raised through. And, I think for a lot of people, they carry that, like yourself and myself, like we've grown out of that, scarcity mentality. But a lot of people, they carry that scarcity with them, and then they bring that, taker mentality into relationships instead of like the giving and the leading with value. And they wonder why they don't really get anywhere because they're trying to like tit for tat, like, how do I, figure out a way to squeeze the most out of this other human versus like, how do I bring the most value I can? Yeah,
it's so true, man. Yeah. And I think you only get that to that point by doing like a lot of personal development and just like growing,
Yeah, 100%.
Because had I not done and you not done the personal development, obviously going through the trials and tribulations, but like the personal development, I would still be like scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Like it would be terrible.
100%.
I still struggle sometimes with it. Like,
I mean, me too.
To this day, like I sometimes will catch myself like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm thinking too small, like I got to think bigger here. Like I'm not, and then I have to like kind of force myself to like not do that,
Yeah.
So I think you always struggle with that as an entrepreneur. So I love how you met Pace. I love leading with value. Now you're doing deals. What is the other book? Profitability when you're running the company?
Profit First by Mike Michalowicz.
I got to write that one down. So we have 2 book recommendations so far: Profit First and The Go Giver.
The Go Giver.
Who's The Go Giver by? I haven't read either of those.
Oh my gosh, The Go Giver is such a great book.
Which one would you read first?
I mean, for you, probably Profit First as a business owner. Like if someone's like brand new to business, Profit First probably isn't a great book. Like if they're like never have made $1 for their business, like once they kind of get it rolling, it's good to read.
Yep.
But Go Giver is good for everyone, anyone and everyone, honestly.
I love that.
I can't remember the name of it, but it's a red face on it. The guy's name, I've met him in person, but I can't get the name out of my head. It might come to me as we're going through it, but
cool.
But Profit First, Mike Michalowicz, and I think it's a yellow cover on that one.
I'm fired up to read them.
but excellent. I mean, if you have an integrator, because I'm assuming you're more of the visionary for the business, so like I would make your integrator read that.
Yeah, I definitely will. No, for sure.
Because Pace, when I was like trying to get him to read it, he was like, "This is the most boring thing I've ever read in my entire life." But to me, I'm like, "This is so cool."
I'll listen to the audio maybe, and then I'll have him actually read it. You know, I have a couple of very, very, very talented integrators on my team, thank God, and actually really more than a couple now. We've got high level employees and stuff, which is great. So when did you start acquiring property? Do you remember the first property that you and Pace acquired together? Because you had already owned a couple of rentals from when I knew you, right? And those were personal rentals of yours. So I'd imagine then now you're partners with Pace. At that point, you're building kind of a portfolio together with him, and then you kind of had your little portfolio over here that you had by yourself, correct?
Yeah, so we started buying, it was probably about a year after we started working together, because the first year was just like ramping up, getting the wholesaling, dialed in, getting flips going, and then using those flips to start putting cash aside. So then we could actually start, funding buying, rental properties. And that, so it was about a year of us working together. So it was like, we started working together in like end of January or February. And it was like by the end of that year, we started buying like November or December of that year.
Yeah, I love that. And what was the first property that you bought? Do you remember it?
First rental that we bought together. That's really kind of crazy because I can't even remember. Because there's just like a lot of them.
Was it single family or multi?
Single family. Single family. A lot of the stuff that we own together is, single family homes, townhomes, condos. We have some manufactured homes as well. But yeah, I feel like I should remember that. I think one of the first ones was. That's a story for another time, but we had a deal go super sideways on a subject to deal that we bought as one of our first ones. But I can't remember the address of the first one because it's all kind of like it's just kind of a blur.
Yeah, for sure. I can only imagine. When you first started to acquire property with him, were you going to the bank and acquiring a loan, or were you mainly doing subject to, or a mixture of the two?
Starting off, I mean, the first, like that year, like pretty much when we first started buying, it was all seller carries and subject to.
Wow.
Like it was all creative finance acquisitions for the first year and a half, probably of us acquiring anything was all creative finance. And then we started doing some bank loans and doing, the Burr method and on some properties as well. Being able to convert more of the stuff we were flipping to just be long-term holds. And then we did that all the way up until, debt structures got really terrible last year with interest rates, more than doubling. So, the model doesn't really work for those for our buy box anymore. So now it's just all creative finance.
Yeah, because you're getting their interest rate.
Right? Yeah. We'll buy those 3-4% interest rates
all day long. Yeah, send them to him. If he doesn't take them, send them to me. I love it, dude. So talk to me about your wholesaling company at that point in time. How many deals were you wholesaling a month?
Yeah, so as far as what we were wholesaling, we weren't like, big guy, like the biggest guys in the world. Like we would do anywhere from like a lower month of 6 to 12 deals on a monthly basis. So nothing like massive, like crazy huge operation, but it was what we wanted our business to be. And out of those 6 to 12 that we would do, typically I would say like 40 to 50% of those we'd sell off because they'd just be marginal deals that we didn't like for flips or they didn't fit our buy box for rentals. And then the rest would either, be flips or they'd be rentals. And that was the whole goal. Like our entire goal was like, how do we get all of these to be either flips or rental properties? So then the flips could fund more rental properties or the rental properties just keep adding to the portfolio and then just sell anything that we don't like, really. So that was the sole purpose of our wholesale business, was just to fund buying stuff for the long term, and having the, everything else be able to just have the capital available to acquire more.
Do you like flipping still?
Oh, no. I again, it was a means to an end. I didn't want to flip really. Like I just was like, well, you get bigger, rips of cash out of the flips, and right now, the market's fine for stuff under the median price point. Like if you're, in Arizona anyways, if you're selling stuff under the median price point, like stuff's still moving. But, I never really liked like the construction side of it and all of that. It's just kind of a pain in the butt. But again, just a means to an end. And now it's like, we don't do any direct to seller wholesaling. We don't, really flip stuff unless it's like stupid simple. It's like, oh, well, we could buy this and like barely do anything and make like 80 grand. Okay, we'll buy that, you know?
Sure, yeah.
So it's like that. Otherwise it's just, we just want to buy rentals and Airbnbs. Like that's it. Like that's our whole thing right now. As far as together, Pace is doing multifamily and other stuff outside of that. I don't have the risk tolerance for that. So I don't like variable debt on millions and millions of dollars that's going to adjust and balloon in 3 years and all that. It's not my jam.
For sure. Yeah. which leads me to another conversation, which is like, talk to me about your partnership with him. And I'd love to, I guess where we could start is like, at what point did you feel that he would be a phenomenal partner? Because I think it's one thing to say, hey, I'll give you my leads and you can close my deals. And I'm sure you had some kind of game plan as to how that would be a win-win, obviously, right? But then at what point did it hit you like, oh man, like we could actually like be partners? And then obviously that partnership scaled, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of started like, it was just kind of like a dating phase, which I tell everyone they should do. They should never just like, you know, talk to their friend and be like, let's partner. It's like, that's a terrible idea. So for us, it was like, let's do some deals. Let's joint venture our stuff for a few months. We spent probably 5 months of just that type of, you know, working relationship. And, you know, 3 months into those 5 months, we were sitting at Pace's kitchen table and we were just talking through like, you know, things that we want to accomplish. And I remember vividly like what he said. He was like, he just kind of like looked like he was thinking, and he's like, and I don't know if I can curse on this.
You can, yeah.
Okay. He was like, you know, if in like 2 or 3 more months we don't hate the shit out of each other, maybe we should just partner officially. You know, because it's like we gave, you know, we had basically almost 6 months of working together, and that's enough time to have deals go sideways, and, you know, good things happen, bad things happen, you know, accountability things need to come to the table. And, you know, within that 6 months, like we experienced a lot of those things, and we were able to, you know, be on the same page of like where we wanted to go, like, you know, longer term. And so all of those things, you know, it's like it took 6 months of really working together to know that, hey, this does make sense. Like we both want to achieve similar things. Our values are in alignment. Our work ethic is in alignment. We both just, we love work. Like we just, all we want to do is work. And so it's just like, this is cool. Like you want to work a bunch, I do too. And like, we, you know, we could hold each other accountable. And so that was really the process, was that. And it was like, well, it was just kind of a natural thing. Like it wasn't a forced thing. And I think the important thing too is, you know, just for people that might be considering partnerships, the worst thing you could ever do is partner with someone that's just like you. Because if you both love sales and marketing, or you both love operations, like there's going to be problems. Because if you both love sales and marketing, you're going to be like generating a bunch of like opportunities, or you're selling a bunch of stuff, but then your fulfillment is horrendous. Or if you're just two operators, you're going to have a bunch of organized systems, but you're going to be broke and not have any money. So there's kind of that, you know, there has to be kind of that yin and yang, where that's very much Pace and myself. Like I, you know, oversee and like run our companies, and he's kind of like business development and like creating like big opportunities for us, and out, you know, running around the world. I mean, he's on his book tour right now. And so, you know, that's his thing. And I just I get to run the companies.
I love
like,
that.
That's cool.
How do you guys decide in your partnership? You said that there's some bigger like deals and stuff that he'll work on his own. Yeah. And that you don't want anything to do with that. Like, how do you guys decide in a partnership, like what you guys do together and what you don't do together?
Usually what happens is like any like one-off opportunities that come up, like Pace just brings like, hey, you want to do this? And then like, I'm either like, yeah or no. And, you know, there was definitely friction around the multifamily thing, because he, you know, we had all these different things going on. He's like, hey, like, you know, I need you to like basically build an entire like team of people, of like underwriters and data analysts and acquisitions people for a multifamily, you know, company, and like, you know, a team to raise funds. And I'm like, on top of everything else that we're doing right now, and then on top of like interest rates are actively rising right now, and like people that are getting into multifamily are getting smashed, I'm like, I'm good on that. So like, honestly, there was friction. Like we were butt heads a lot during that time, because I was like, dude, like I don't believe in doing this right now. And not to say that it's wrong. It's just for my risk tolerance of like who I am as a person. And so, we butted heads, and then he had someone else that, stepped in to, kind of build that out, and they're working on that together. And I'm like, I'm happy for him. Like, I had our team build the website for their thing, and I'm like, cool. Like, I'm happy to support anything that, it's just some things I don't want to be actually involved in,
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that's, ran, is like, hey, like, do you want to do this opportunity? Yeah or no, or whatever. And that's pretty much it.
I love that. Yeah. Very, very healthy partnership, like from what I can tell and hear, right? Which is, I think, really valuable for the listener, because there's so many unhealthy partnerships out there.
Yeah.
I've been in them personally.
I have too.
Yeah. And I know, now more than ever, I know the difference between a bad one and a good one.
Yeah, for sure.
And not to say that the bad ones were bad people. It's just that they definitely weren't a good partner.
Yeah. It's like because there has to be, like, your vision of what you want has to align, the work ethic has to align, and your skill sets have to be different, in my opinion. You have to be able to bring different things to the table, and so, like, those are the things. And, it's like, our partnership isn't perfect. Like, I'd be lying if I didn't say that, definitely a couple times a year where we, like, really butt heads and get pissed at each other, and, but.
Hey there, thank you for tuning into the content of this channel. Since you're here, real quick, I'm a real estate guy, right? I've been wholesaling real estate since 2014, and that's about a decade, right? And I've done a little over 2,000 wholesale deals all over the country in that time. And for a long time, I've had people reach out via DM, via email, and in the comments section asking if I offered mentorship or education or any sort of group training. And for the longest time, I turned everybody down because my focus was to be one of the top wholesalers in the nation. And that day is finally here. My company pretty much runs on autopilot, and my organization does, at a very minimum, 1 to 2 wholesale deals every single day. And that is why I'm so excited to announce our new private coaching program, Flippin' Simple. So whether you're looking to wholesale your very first deal, or you're already doing a handful of deals a month and you're looking to scale, I've put together a waiting list so that you can be one of the very first people to find out when the program drops. Spots are, of course, limited, so go ahead and click the link down below to be a part of the wait list, and somebody on my team will reach out to see if you're a good fit. Now let's go ahead and get back to the video.
That's normal. Like, what two humans can go years and years just perfectly in harmony?
Yeah.
When you have two, like, red-blooded, American-driven, freaking work ethic, workaholic, just, like, want to take over the world personalities together. You know what I mean?
Very
it's like,
true. Yeah.
how are you going to have just perfect harmony with that?
You're definitely not. No. Talk to me a little bit about building teams and culture, right? I always think back to Vima and the YPR, right? And it was like, that was like my first exposure to, like, the energy of, like, people and like how contagious, like, energy could be. And then obviously you went on to wholesale, and now you wholesaled, you built the portfolios. I mean, you've got this portfolio of companies, which I'm sure we'll get to more, maybe just a little bit more of that here in a second. But, like, in doing so, I'd imagine you've had to build a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Right. And you've had to assemble different personality types and give them different roles and like, what are some things that you've had to do along the way, and what would tips be that you might have in doing that?
Yeah, so clarity is really everything. A few things that just come off the top of my head, like having clarity of, like, what people are needing to achieve within the role that they're in, So it's like, if we hire someone on, they need to have, what does success look like for their role? What are their main responsibilities? What are their main KPIs? Their key performance indicators of, if they're a salesperson, how many calls should you be making a day? How many of those should be actually good, meaningful conversations? How many of those should turn into a deal or a contract or whatever the business, sale is? And, if they're achieving X, what's their reward? Or if they're underperforming, what's the plan of action to get them either performing or have that tough conversation of, hey man, like, or hey girl, like, this isn't working out.
Sure.
And so really just, establishing what success looks like what we're trying to achieve as a company is really big. And so, kind of casting the vision of, like, here's where we're going, here's, why we're going there. But then from there also, building out the organization chart where it's really clear of, like, you can look on the org chart and see who's sitting in what role, what's the job title. And that's another thing too that I really learned a lot more over the last probably 6 to 12 months really is a lot of times like your employees like really care about their title. And so being very careful with what titles people receive because, for a multitude of reasons, but having like for us, like for every business, like every role has a maturity model of like, say the employee maturity model is, let's just call it for a media company. Like somebody comes in, they're a junior editor. Like that's the base level. They're doing the more simple edits, maybe shorts, different things like that. They could then ascend, which is a pay increase, but there's competencies that are required to achieve the next, position. And there's, core values that they have to be able to have withheld, and their manager has to sign off that, yeah, they have withheld those. And, where then they move to, editor, just like a normal editor at our company. And then they can move from, editor to then lead editor, so it's like having that within different roles within the company of, junior to, just the normal level to, more of a lead to more of like a senior manager, director, and like having that path of like what their opportunity looks like within the company. So that's something that I really spend time on is making sure that people see like what's the path for them and like what those stages look like and what the comp looks like at those stages. And it's up to them to perform. It's like if they can do this for X amount of time and their competencies and their core value fit and like their, soft skills and personable skills can, get them to those next levels. Like that's how they're able to succeed. And so like I look at more of like the businesses that we build, like my job is to build a great business that the people are able to serve the business really well. It isn't as much to do like all of the things or jump in the weeds of like everything. It's like, how do I, create clarity for a role of like what success looks like for that role? And then how do I manage accountability to that? And that's attaching KPIs and responsibilities to it. And then how do you manage the personalities? You manage by core values, which is what we do. So it's like, if someone's not upholding that, it's a conversation about our core values aren't aligned with the way that they're acting. So we have to have a conversation and always bring it back to that versus just like being pissed and like, why are you being such a freaking butthole and like causing problems with these departments? If we go back to what our core value of one of ours, which is we think we, not me, are we really acting in that when we're doing this? No. Okay. So what we need to do is refocus on how do we act more within that value and that alignment and working through that. And so that's how we'll hold accountability is one to the, people's KPIs because it's important. But then the way that they operate in the organization is held to how their values are aligned with our company's values.
Gotcha.
So, and then it's just like casting the vision of like, here's where we're going. This is what we're trying to achieve. And, this is what the opportunity is. And, it's not all perfect. We have plenty of our own personnel issues. And, you have people in finance that don't necessarily have the same personality as someone in sales or in operations, or a graphic designer doesn't have the same thought process as, a project manager, you know what I mean? So it's like, there's just all the different personalities. And so that's why, I really try to take us always back to core values when there's like disputes. Cause it's like, I don't care the way that you're thinking. Are you thinking in the way that aligns with our company's values? Cause that's what actually matters.
Sure.
And if we can bring everyone, regardless of their, crazy personalities, to all be in the same place and agree that our core values are what we agree on as a company, then we're going to be fine.
Yep.
And sometimes we sway away, where it's like, we think we, not me is one of them. And, not acting in that would be like selfishness. And like we all can act in a selfish way at times. But the thing about the value is, are we consistently acting outside of what our values are? Or is it just, I had a bad day today and that's okay? So it's having grace for like the human side of like, we all are humans. We're flawed. Sometimes we wake up, we feel like crap, or, we're getting over a sickness, or, we just had a family event happen. And so we're more on edge and more irritable, or, it's like all of those human elements, but bringing it back to, are we consistently aligned in our values, or are we now inconsistent consistently?
I love that, dude. Phenomenal golden nuggets in there. What would be the one tip you have in addition to that, on building culture?
I mean, honestly, it's like, a culture of celebration, of just like celebrating wins. Like that's the big thing. I mean, we aren't, I think your culture and your office like looks probably more like fun or exciting than ours. Like when ours is like, we're celebrating wins a lot, but like, and I think something we could do a better job of, and this is what I have our HR team like kind of like working on, doing more like monthly town hall things and like potlucks around the office, and doing like events and stuff. Like we do a pretty awesome like Christmas party every year where we spend a bunch of money and like fly out any of our team that's out of state to in-state, and all have a great time. And we have a leadership week planned this winter where anyone that's out of state will fly in, and literally like pretty much we're just going to have everyone take off a week and just spend it in the office and like teach on different leadership things and different skills to help everyone in our company be better. So like that's something that we're excited to do this December. But that's the thing on the culture. It's just like trying to just bring it to the values and have some fun along the way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that you nailed it right on the head of celebrating success. I think that's a massive one.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to figure that out. I mean, I always knew that internally, but then getting an organization of people to do that can be a different conversation, obviously. And a lot of it's just like the types of people I think you bring in and hire, making sure that you're bringing in the right people to begin with.
Yeah. And that's where it's like, sharing what those values are. And like one of our values is we are results oriented. Yeah. And like, it's funny because a year ago, that value used to be, we do the best we can. But I changed that to we are results oriented because, we're a driving organization, and it's like, if your best isn't enough, it's not enough. That's the same for me though. It's like if my best that I can do doesn't produce the results, my role in like a certain thing needs to be replaced with someone that gets results. So that's just what it is. I voice that to our team. It's like, look, like if something that I, am accountable for to do and I'm unable to do it, someone else has to step in because the business requires what the business requires. And so, the allegiance is to like the business's overall success, because if the business is successful, everyone else is able to win. And so I really harp on that a lot. It's like, well, the results have to be produced, and it's just, you either are or you're not.
Yeah, for sure. I love that, dude. That's awesome. Talk to me about like chasing two rabbits. We've heard the idea, right, or the saying, I guess, of chase two rabbits, catch neither, right? Yeah. And obviously you're working, how many total companies are you involved in right now, or do you own?
I mean, entities, we have over 10, but like main ones that I'm involved in is, our virtual assistant company, Start Virtual, our media company, Manifest You, and then our real estate, we have a bunch of just different subsidiary companies in our real estate side. And then we have our umbrella company that, we're working on acquiring other businesses in now. So like, there's going to be other companies that'll start rolling up into our organization. So really those are like the three main ones from the pillars, like the real estate, Start Virtual, Manifest You, and then there's going to be subsidiaries like kind of rolling up under those different branches. At
what point can people pivot? So like at what point did you pivot to being able to do what you do now, right? Which is run multiple companies. Because in the beginning, your advice I would imagine would be, hey, stick to one thing,
go all
do
in,
one
blinders,
thing. Right.
Yeah.
So then when is it okay? Because I don't think very many people talk about this. Like I hear that advice all the time, right? Yeah. Like blinders, one thing. But then you hear guys like Tony Robbins that own 130 companies. So then it's like, okay, but then at what point can I do more, right? So what would your advice be to that? Like when were you able to do more?
I mean, part of it's like understanding yourself and like the type of person you are and like what you can and can't handle. But I think where people get it wrong is they hear like, you need 7 streams of income to be a millionaire, the average millionaire, but it's like what people need to do is go all in on one thing, get that successful, and to at a point where it's not automated, because nothing is automated, but where it is running efficiently enough where you can spend less hours on it every week, every month, and you can add on to do other things. And doing that is you have to build your SOPs, your standard operating procedures for your company have to be organized. And then you have to have great people, a great team. That's the only way you're going to be able to do that is having great people, being able to, run day-to-day stuff in your business, and then being able to have great systems so that, as new people come in, they're able to integrate in well with the team and the culture and the environment and be able to keep driving the company forward. The challenge, because I do have that conversation and people are like, oh, like, you only should focus on one thing. And I'm like, well, cool, do that for yourself. Like, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Like, if you can't figure out how to build teams that could actually run your business when you're not there all day, every day, like that's not my problem.
Sure.
It's like, it's a limiting belief, I think.
It is.
And it's like, who's to say? Maybe if I only focused on one, we'd be doing $100 million a year with one company. Maybe, but I don't know. This is a life I want to build. So I'm like, I think it's like people have to make that choice. But the way that you get successful to start is like focus and all in on one thing, getting great at that and making great money with that. And then you could add on things as you have a team and processes in place. Because what people do wrong, and I've seen this also, is maybe they're making, $500,000 a year just in gross revenues with their company, and they're like, I want to add on another pillar. And then they go add on something else, and now that other thing's doing $100,000 a year, and then their main thing goes down to $200,000 a year because now they're focusing their time over there. So now they're a net loss.
Yep.
So it's like, you don't go to the next thing until your first thing has consistent revenue, consistent team members that perform at a high level, and processes that are in place to be able to consistently perform. And so like that's my process for it, is like having those things in place to be able to add on. And like that's like the conversation with the multifamily thing that I was talking about that Pace had brought about a year ago. I was like, not ready for that. I got to have these other systems in place. I need a couple other key leaders that I'm working on developing right now, and those things will fall apart. So like right now, where Start Virtual and Manifest D were like cruising and growing, right now that's where I'm putting focus into hiring, a head of operations that's going to oversee and work with my CFO on us acquiring other companies. And, we want to buy a plumbing company and an HVAC company and some other home service companies here in Arizona to serve a lot of our real estate portfolio, but then, diversify our portfolio of companies. And we're hiring, a high-level head of operations that has been involved in mergers and acquisitions, has been involved in, companies from a few employees to hundreds of employees, and we're him and our CFO were going to go in and operationalize and then financially, kind of clean up these companies and get those performing, better and grow them. And that's only possible because, yes, I'm bringing in a head of operations that's done it for 10 plus years. And I have a CFO that's been doing it for 20 years and has the experience to do the things. So that's where it's kind of that facade of like, I'm doing it, but it's really a great team is able to do the things. It's not the one individual. That's where people get it wrong, is they think that they get to do all the things on their own. It's no, you have to have great people to help do those things.
For sure. You got to hire somebody to catch the second rabbit.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
You can't catch them both.
No. Yeah, you just need some help.
Yeah, for sure. And good help, right? Yeah. And man, I love what you're saying because it's just so true. Because I know you're a little bit limited on time. What would you say? Manifest U is the name of the
media company.
The media company. Okay.
Yeah, education, media.
Media. Talk to me about that company real quick. What does it do? What is your focus in that company?
So we have a few pillars there. So the main pillar is, serving, the brand of Pace. Like if you see anything online from Pace, like from, ads that are created to videos to short, long form, short form, podcast, all the content, we run all of that. It is a lot of, there's probably 100 pieces of content a week. Like we have a lot of people on the team to, just fulfill that one thing. And that company makes money from affiliate revenue. We also have a few different info products that we sell at that company as well. And then we're, going to be doing some like branding workshops and things like that that are on the horizon. And then, one of the pillars, because, conservative Cody, that we're going to be launching probably next year is, kind of video editing services, not for like the fledgling, like just newer, entrepreneur, but like, higher level retainer, like, hey, you come to us, it's going to look dope, but you're going to pay for it. And you're going to sign, a 6-month contract to work with us. And we'll probably build up like maybe 100 clients of just serving that, because we have our video editing process pretty dialed in with our team. because we've had to do it, for Pace's brand, and, we're working on rolling out like my podcast right now, and, getting my content more consistent again.
Yeah.
So really it's, info products, education, affiliates, and then serving, the other brands that we're going to help on the video editing side. And then the final thing is for us buying these other companies that like the home service companies that we're working on acquiring. We'll come in and, add technology to them, redo their websites, take payments online, add processes and systems on the technology side to those companies, and then we'll do the branding, marketing, redo the logos, all the branding and media side of those companies. Will also serve those companies with Manifestio.
That'll be really cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch you evolve in that, and I can't wait to talk to you in a year or two from now and see where you're at with that company, because that's a big. I mean, that could be a really big operation.
Yeah.
I mean, sky's pretty much the limit in that one.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. What about the Start Virtual? So you've scaled that pretty big now, right? And talk to me about some challenges that you faced in scaling a virtual assistant company.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say one of the biggest challenges has been like getting the right avatar of people we want to serve. For the first, we're 3.5 years into that company now, and it's grown, it's great and all of that, but, it's a very complex operational thing to manage and run, from all of the pieces that have to come together. So like really dialing in like clean operational systems has been a big challenge, and the technology side as well. But I would say the biggest challenge has been, getting the right avatar of people that we want, which we don't want people that we don't want to, really serve the lead gen side of people's businesses, because...
Really quick, if you're a real estate agent in the state of Arizona and you're looking to join a phenomenal team, then I would love to have a conversation with you. If you're looking for an incredible culture, you're looking for lead generation, you're looking for transaction coordination, then I would love to have a conversation and see if you would be a great fit for our team, okay? So again, if you're an agent in the state of Arizona, make sure you text the number 480-418-5339, the word agent, okay? Again, 480-418-5339, the word agent. Now let's go ahead and get back to the show.
As the normal wholesaler comes in, they're excited, and, they hire a virtual assistant, and in 17 minutes, if they're not rich, they want to let them go because... they suck at sales, and they get leads, and they don't know how to talk to them. They don't know how to close them. And so they want to blame everything around them but themselves. And so, so for us, it's, we really focus more on adding admin type clients, customer service type stuff. We do bookkeeping services over there as well. So, really on more administrative and support roles versus lead gen, just because the clients are a pain in the ass. And, we have some really great clients too. So I don't want to like put everyone in the bucket of that. We have some really great clients that have been with us for years on the lead gen side, and they're awesome. But, and maybe that's just thinking in my head, if we continue serving the lead gen side, just signing long contracts, and it's like, you're either in or you're out. Otherwise, we're serving other clients, things. So that's probably been the biggest challenge, is technology and operational integration of everything running online to, getting the right avatar down, which is we've really been focusing on this year.
Should somebody hire a VA before they hire their first U.S. Let's assume that whoever's watching is in the U.S. Before they hire somebody in the U.S. In your opinion?
Well, it depends. Give me an example of what they
somebody
look
who's
like.
Newer to business. They're a newer wholesaler, newer real estate agent, newer. They're starting to make money. They're getting too busy for their own good. They need to start building, right?
Yeah.
And they're about to make their first hire. Should they hire a VA?
Yes, I would say yes, a VA. If you're saying that they haven't made any money yet, no, do not do that. But if they're making money consistently, now in their business, like I'd say, one of the VAs that make a lot of sense for somebody starting off is going to be like an admin VA. It's like they're starting to make money, they're getting deals done consistently, but there's a whole bunch of tasks that they're doing, like pulling lists, skip tracing lists, loading them into dialers or, mailer campaigns or text campaigns, or, managing the marketing system that the wholesaler's doing. A VA can take, probably save 10, 15 hours a week pretty easily off of somebody's plate by giving those tasks to a VA, and then having them do additional things like maybe cleaning up their CRM, doing like lead organization for them. Maybe they're helping with some of the transaction coordination and following up with title for the either the agent or whatever, or making like very simple Canva graphics if they're an agent for them to promote their business. Like there's a lot of little administrative things where when you look at the cost, I mean, for our company, if they're going to be paying anywhere from $1,300 to $1,700 a month for that virtual assistant, whether they're for 30 to 40 hours a week. That's what they're looking at, and it's like that's really not that much money, especially if they're already like making 100. I mean, if you're doing a couple deals a month, like you're bringing in at least $100,000 a year in revenue. Whether it's profit or not, that's the question. Yeah. But 100, 200 plus grand a year in revenue, where it's like it's a no-brainer to buy back that 20 hours plus a week of just minutia work that they're doing.
Sure,
for sure.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, I love the VA world.
Yeah.
And I think what you guys are doing is truly incredible. I know you got to get out of here soon. So one of my final questions for you is if you had a billboard, right? And you probably heard this on other podcasts, but if you could basically have the attention of the entire world, right? What would you tell them? And it could be probably more like life advice. It could be business. It could be relationship. But like, what's one thing that you've learned that you would want to pass on to everybody?
Oh man. That's a hard one. One thing that I've learned that I want to pass on to everybody. I mean, I don't know exactly how it would be said on there, but something around the lines of, continuously working on yourself and keep a childlike curiosity of life, like childlike curiosity of learning. People get older, they get degrees and stuff, and they stop learning, and they think they know everything. And, the childlike curiosity of like believing in your dreams, because people get, older and rigid, and they're like, don't believe in stuff's being possible anymore. So it's like keeping that childlike, curiosity for your dreams and for your learning and for, relationships and things, and being open to, learning new ways of thought. Too many people are so rigid. Like I'm rigid in like my beliefs of like I am going to win no matter what, over however many years I'm going to make it happen. But, people are rigid in like being unwilling to learn or unwilling to change, or like just stuck in their way. And it's like in a way that's not serving them. So it's like being curious enough to make a change for the better, even if it's temporarily painful for right now.
That's phenomenal advice. Dude, I love that. You gave 2 book recommendations since you've been on the podcast.
Yeah.
Give me a 3rd book recommendation.
What topic?
Oh, man. Let's do best overall personal development book you've ever read, if you had to pick one.
One that comes to mind, and it's finance related, is by T. Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I think that one's super helpful for people, really, because it doesn't matter how much money that anyone makes, if they don't manage it well. It's like, what's the point? Like, you're not going to it's like make a bunch, but then if you like squander it all or blow it on something stupid, it's like, well, now you got to go do it again. And so T. Harv Eker's book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, really gets to like the blueprint of like why we have like what our money personality is, like whether we're a saver, a spender, whether we believe that, in our upbringing that, God thinks that people with money are bad, and that's our mentality, or, grandma thinks people with money are bad people, so you don't want to have money because grandma thinks you're going to be a bad person, So it's like we have all these money blueprints and beliefs, and so it kind of helps you go through the recognition of like maybe some negative non-serving beliefs in that book around money you can identify, and it helps you kind of understand maybe some new thought patterns of how to have better relationship with money. And then it talks about just some like basic like percentage money management on a personal side as well to help with. And so for me, that book was super helpful, and I've been managing my money that way now for 7 years. It gives recommended percentages of how to do it in the book, and then I've kind of tweaked it over the years as I've like advanced, because it gives kind of a baseline, then it's like you got to tweak it, over the years. But it gives you like some bumpers of like, hey, start here, because you're likely, for most people that don't have any formal money management skills, probably need some help with that.
Agreed. Yeah, man, I love that book. It's truly. I kind of forgot about that book.
Yeah.
I still have it's right on my shelf though. Like I've read it a handful of times. Phenomenal book, man. Any final thoughts? Kind of wrapping up the show here.
Oh, I mean, for anybody listening and just wanting to, accomplish whatever their goal or dream is, it's like just keep cranking away at it. It's like it's hard. It's hard as shit. Like that's why it's a worthy dream or goal or, endeavor for you to achieve in life. And so I think that's just a big thing is just, if you want to achieve something, it's 100% attainable, 100% possible. Is it hard? Extremely. Yeah. Is it harder than you think it will be? Yes. Will it cost more than you think it will be? Yes. Will it take longer than you think it will? Yes. All of those things are true. Is it worth it when you get there and then like continue pursuing after? Yes. So, it's just choosing to continue going after it.
So true, man. I love that. Where can people find you, Cody? What do you guys have a website for any of your companies, and then obviously you on social media too?
Yeah, so our virtual assistant company, startvirtual.com. We don't have one for a media company because we're building a website, but we're not outwardly facing right now. But you can go to connectwithcody.com as well. And then my Instagram, Cody Barton Official, and I'll start posting more on it soon. So.
Have you figured out a name for your pod?
It's it's called That's Not My Job, an introvert's guide to building a business beyond yourself.
I love that, dude. I love that. That'll be a good podcast. Are you going to do it in person?
So I got my setup at my office, so I'm going to, record there and, have it all done from there. Yeah.
I love that, dude.
Yeah.
Well, we'll link all of your information down below. Put all of your social media and everything you just mentioned will be linked down below on any platform. So, dude, I really just appreciate the time, man. I'm honored and humbled that you came, and always enjoy hanging out with you.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thank you so much. Hey, if you're still watching the show, do me a huge favor. Drop in the comment section down below if you're on YouTube. If you're listening on any other platform, it would mean the world if you would leave a 5-star review, and we'll see you in the next one.